Yeah, like people don't do what you want them to do. They do what they self-discover. But how do you get them to self-discover things? You get them to self-discover things by asking them questions. Okay. Around what their motivation is, how their life's going to improve in some way, if they did make the move happen, so on and so forth. And me and Jose demonstrated that we can probably ask, I don't know, 15, 20 questions before we're going to even make any type of suggestion. Okay. What most people do is try to pontificate about how much they know about economics when 65% of people live paycheck to paycheck, which includes agents. So I don't know what exactly qualifies us to be giving people financial advice. And instead ask questions about what their goals and objectives are. And this works for somebody that Rob's trying to get to sell them their house. You know what I mean? Like, I'm curious, for you personally, which has more value to you? Is it expediency, like speed, being done and complete in like 2 weeks where you don't have to do a thing? Or would you be willing to keep it on the open market for a little bit longer, maybe get a little bit more money, which would have more value to you? And then shut up. Instead of you trying to convince somebody what they should do. Does that make sense? And this fits perfectly into what I learned. Last week, I went to Pace Morby's Squad Up Summit. It's pretty cool. It's the first event he ever did. There's like 3,000 people in the room. He was super generous. He gave me a VIP ticket, sat me up in the front, shouted me out a couple of times, which is pretty cool. He didn't have to do that. But one of the things I learned is he had a speaker there. His name is Donald Miller, and he does a thing called Story Brand format. He wrote a book called Story Brand. It's a fantastic book. Okay. And what it talks about is that story is the only tool that we have as humans that can hold attention for hours at a time. It's the only tool that we have that can do that. And there's only a few stories that work. There's like 7 formats that work. But in all formats, there's a structure. And the structure is there is a hero and there is a guide. Okay. Now, here's what's interesting, Abby. Who's actually the second weakest person in the story? Is it the hero, the guide, or the villain? Who's the second weakest person in the story? Anybody can answer this, by the way. It's not just Abby.
The guide?
The guide. No, the second weakest person is the hero. Think about this. So, okay, Luke Skywalker is the hero, but who's the guide? Obi-Wan. Let me ask you a question. Does Luke know anything about the Force? Nope. No. Does he know how to fight? Nope. Does he know how to fucking fly those fighter jets? Nope. He doesn't know how to do anything. And is he making mistakes constantly? Yes. Harry Potter is the hero. Who's the guide? Dumbledore. Does Harry know that he's magical at the beginning? Does he know how to use his power? Does he make mistakes all the time and mess up? The hero is actually the second weakest person in the story behind the villain. Because if you think about Harry Potter, Voldemort, he's like, doesn't even have a human body. He's the weakest person. Right? How is this applicable? You know what most of you guys do when you're talking to people? You try to make yourself the hero. Well, Ricardo, while your home was on the market, I sold 5 homes. Did you know that? Who's the hero? Are you familiar with the techniques that I use to sell homes? Who's the hero? Well, I specialize in selling homes, Max, in that specific. Who's the hero? When the hero's actually the second weakest person in the story.
How about this one? Yeah. Will you cut your commission? No. Any other questions? You know how much business I lost from that? I had people tell me to get the hell out of their house.
Yeah, like get up and get out of my house, bro. You're making yourself the hero is the point, guys. And that doesn't work in storytelling. The most powerful person in the whole story is the guide. Obi-Wan is the most powerful person in the story. Dumbledore is the most powerful person in the story. Right? There's if you watch the what is that, Hunger Games, there's Katniss Everdeen, and then there's the guy who's like the guide. I forgot his name. He's played by Woody Harrelson. Yeah, Neo in the Matrix. Who's the hero? Neo. Who's the guide? Morpheus. And does Neo know what the hell he's doing? Nope. Does he understand his power? No. Is he constantly making mistakes? Yep. This is so interesting to me because it's so applicable in sales, because what we do what would cause us to try to make ourselves the hero? What emotion? What feeling?
Empathy.
I'm sorry, there's too many at one time. Alma?
Insecurity.
Yes. Antonio, what'd you say?
I said empathy.
No. So insecurity would cause us to make ourselves the hero. So if you start saying things like, while your home was on the market, I've sold 45 properties. Did you know that? You know what's underneath that? Insecurity.
I've seen Jose convert a lot of calls by saying, I'm the number one realtor, sold this much in real estate. And then you hear it, they're like, oh, interesting, after they expired off the market.
Yeah, but it's only when I promise you, it's only when he's challenged to do it.
Yeah, it's the context.
He does not lead with that.
Yeah, it'll always be, he'll be one layer in, maybe two. And then for the Hail Mary, it's like, hey, and he'll put something out there to kind of keep the hook on him.
Correct.
And the context is in what you think it's used at the right time.
Yeah. So instead of leading with authority and trying to make yourself the hero right out of the gate, if I'm having a conversation with somebody and they challenge me and they might say something like, well, how are you any different, Cheyenne, from all the people that are calling me? I appreciate you asking, and truthfully, I know underneath that is whether or not I can help you. So my intention in sharing with you what I'm about to share with you is not to brag or boast. It's just to answer directly what you're asking me. I've had the good fortune, in my career, 17 years, I've helped 2,000 families get their homes sold. So it's really not a question to me of whether or not we could or couldn't help you. We definitely can. It's just really me trying to figure out what you're looking to accomplish and why, what's important to you and your family, so we can help you to get what you want in the time you want. By the way, how did I just position myself? Not as the hero. What am I? The guide. The hero in the story is them. Why are you guys on this call with me? I am the what? Guide. I'm Obi-Wan. I am Dumbledore. Okay. So how do you position yourself as the guide? You have to deploy two things to position yourself as the guide. One, well, let me ask you a question. I'll ask you before I tell you, okay? I won't make this easy for you. What do you think we need to deploy in order to be positioned as the guide? What do you think is required?
Asking them questions.
Okay, asking.
Having finding
some sort of knowledge of the product.
Okay. So what you're basically saying to me is demonstrating competency.
Correct.
And what I need everybody on this call to understand is the quality of your questions and the depth of your questions demonstrate your competency more than you bragging. Anybody besides me ever been in the presence of a true professional who hits you with a lot of questions and immediately you're like, oh, I'm in good hands? Right? As soon as you sit down with them, they're like, boom, shit, you didn't even think of. You're like, oh yeah, I didn't even think of that. Oh shit, I didn't even think of that. Oh man. Oh, immediately, what are you thinking to yourself? They know what the fuck they're doing. So do you see how it's counterintuitive from a communication perspective? What the insecure part of my flesh wants to do is fucking brag, but that will not demonstrate me as competent. Does that make sense? Now, there is a tangible component of competency. So if you talk to me and you hear me ask you all these questions, you're like, man, that was super fucking on point. Then you go online, you see the reviews, you see all this other shit. Now you're like, okay, they know what they're doing. They can be a good what? Guide. The first thing you have to deploy, though, is really what Antonio said, is you have to deploy empathy. And that's the total opposite of what most people think, Ricky. So you'll hear me say, like, if somebody's like, oh, God damn it, I have so many people calling me. Yeah, I understand. I can hear in your voice that you're really frustrated. Truthfully, if I woke up and got a bunch of phone calls at 8 o'clock in the morning, I would feel the exact same way. I'm going to be sure to take it off my list before I let you go, because I can see here that your home's really lovely. It's in a great geographic area. When you originally put it on the market, was there any particular reason you were even considering selling it? I've deployed empathy. I understand. When people come to me and they're like, hey, bro, this real estate sales thing is hard. Yeah, I understand. I don't know if you know this. I only made $13,000 my first calendar year selling real estate. I get it. I know what it's like to actually begin to doubt myself and doubt if I made a good decision in terms of, choice of profession. What am I deploying? Empathy, guys. Do you see? Hey, listen, I understand this is a super big decision. And you want to make sure you're making the best decision possible. So what I'd like to do is just ask you a couple of questions, because you know what? If it makes sense, Ricky, we'll do it. If it doesn't, that's okay too. Fair enough? You see how I'm deploying empathy? Or let's say somebody, it's my friend. Yeah, I understand. And I'm imagining that what you're feeling right now is kind of a sense of obligation to talk to your friend. At the same time, you're concerned that it may end up affecting the relationship in some way. Is that right? And they're like, Cheyenne's like, oh, that's exactly right, Aaron. Yeah, so what if we could come up with a solution to where you could invest to try to preserve that relationship, your friend gets some compensation, and you get the service and results that you deserve? Would you be open to that? Well, what do you mean? Well, we've had lots of situations like this because, as you can imagine, everybody and their sister and their grandma has a real estate license. So what we've done in the past is we can offer out your friend a referral fee on the listing side commission. So that way they still participate. You get the service and results that you deserve. They get compensated, for being involved in a transaction, really for not doing anything. And it creates a win-win proposition for all parties involved. How does that sound? You would do that? Yeah, for you, I would, sure. So being that it sounds like that's something that you're open to, may I make a suggestion? Yeah, how about we get together, right? I can pop by, take a quick peek, see what it has to offer in person. While I'm there, I'll show you a couple things very clearly. Number one, what would be top dollar? Number two, what we would do in terms of a proactive and aggressive approach to ensure that you accomplish your goals and objectives. Because really, this is about you. It's not about me or the other agent. Who am I making the hero? These are not the drones you are looking for. So, and then at least this way, whatever you decide to do, you'll have all the information you need so you can make the decision that you feel is best in terms of how to proceed. Does that sound fair? You see how I'm constantly positioning myself as the guide, not as the hero? I'm constantly making them the hero. And this is something I see we do as an industry far too often. And it's repelling. It pushes people away. Imagine being in a personal context, Max, like somebody came up to you like, hey, I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm kind of a fucking big deal. You'd be like, really, dude? How many people have ever known somebody who just talks about themselves all the time? How attractive is that? 0. Or you ever meet these people? I was walking my dog the other day, bumped into some random lady. Like, okay, she's like maybe a neighbor or whatever. She's like, oh, yeah, my son, he just graduated from medical school and blah, blah. I just fucking met her. I'm like, I don't care. And truthfully, nobody that you tell does. Who's she trying to make the hero of herself? Who's she trying to make the hero? Look at me. I'm so cool. I'm so special. I'm so cool. I'm so special. Like, no, you're not. Okay. If you want to do more deals, make your clients the heroes of their own story. You're just the guide to help them to accomplish their goals and objectives. Same thing is true with attraction. I'm not making myself the hero. I'm just a guide to help you to accomplish your goals and objectives. You know what I'm starting to hear on a regular basis? A woman yesterday, I hopped on a call with her. She's like, wow, like, it's so cool. I'm talking to you. I watch all your content. I just want to give you your flowers, man. It helps me so much. What role am I in? Am I the hero or the guide?
The guide.
Me to reintroduce myself. My name is H to the OV. I used to move
by the OZ.
I guess even back.
So I also need to make it very easy for people to make decisions, because what our brains are doing, the other thing I learned from him, what our brains are doing without us being conscious of it is 2 things. Number 1, will this information help me to survive or thrive? If I can't determine that this information will help me to survive or thrive, Angel, what would be my level of attention? 0. I'm not going to pay attention at all. You know what our brains are also doing? It's trying to conserve calories. It spends a lot of time blocking out information. So if my brain thinks that it's going to take a hard time to understand something, what's going to happen to my level of attention? Yeah. What do you guys do, though? You start to talk a lot, which people's brains are like, fuck, this is going to take a lot to understand. I'm no longer going to pay attention anymore. Let me ask you a question. If there was a way, Ricardo, that you could just simply by adjusting your approach, 1 or 2 things, you could actually make this move to Texas happen and be closer to your family, would that be worth 10 to 15 minutes of your time? Does that take a lot of calories to understand? Nope. Well, you know, our process is very complicated and we're going to come out. We're going to take pictures. We're going to, you know what the fucking brain does? Yep, that's too much information. I'm not listening anymore. How many of you guys have ever been at a dinner party and somebody said like, hey, what do you do? And they're like, well, it's a little complicated. What does your brain do? Well, it's not going to help me survive or thrive. It's going to take too much time. I'm going to stop fucking paying attention to them. I look at them, but I'm not even like listening to what they're saying. Yes or yes? Guys, but look at what we do in our approach. Right? We have to make it easy to understand. People ask, well, what do you do? Well, you know how like most agents, 70% of agents are out of the business within the first year because they don't know how to list property. What I do is I train agents, giving them the skills and the mindset that they need to list property in high volume so they can actually thrive in this business. Is that very difficult for you to understand what it is that I do? Does it have to do with thriving or surviving? And surviving, because if you don't do it, what's going to happen? Boop. Guys, if you're not couching your offer in surviving and thriving and making it easy to listen to me, you will get beat by a mediocre agent who has better messaging than you. Watch. This goes into politics. Now, I know when we start to talk about this, everybody gets fucking weird, but just suspend this for a second, okay? Remember the hero in the guide. We don't choose people that are the best qualified. We choose people that have the best messaging. Jeb Bush comes from a family that has 2 presidents already. He was the governor of the state of Florida. He had $115 million that he raised, $5 million that he just got off. Do you know what his slogan was? Jeb can fix it. Who's the fucking hero? Interesting. You know what Hillary's slogan was? I am with her. Who is the hero in that? You know what Obama's was? We can do this. Who's the hero? Whether you like him or not, make America great again. Who is that with? Everybody. Messaging matters, team. You will get beat by an inferior product because you have poor messaging. Okay? So, main takeaways. Our brains are thinking of 2 things simultaneously. Number 1 is, does this have to do with surviving or thriving? Is this going to help me personally survive or thrive? If the answer is no, I'm not paying attention. And is this going to take a lot of calories for me to understand what it is that's happening here? If it takes a lot of calories, I'm also not going to pay attention. So you've heard me say a lot of times, economy of words. That's why economy of words matter. If I'm too verbose and I'm fucking going on some long ass explanation as to what's going to happen, I'm going to lose their attention. The second thing is stop making yourself the hero in the story. You're the guide. They are the hero in their own story. The guide's job is to help the hero get what they want. That's the guide's role. It's not to puff out your chest and brag or boast about how cool of a guide you are, because then you're making yourself the hero. Make sense? Can you see how this is applicable in what we do? How many of you guys, by a show of hands, have lost business making yourself the hero? You guys should all have your fucking hands up. 100%. And then you wonder why. And then you know what you do when you're stuck in that virus of thinking? You walk out, you're like, well, you know, those fucking people, they're just dumb. No. You are an asshole. You're trying to make yourself the hero, and that's why you didn't get the business. All right, so let's open it up for questions, comments, concerns, observations, hallucinations, takeaways, ahas. What do you guys got? How can I help you today? How can I be a good guide today?
I have a question.
Yeah.
My question is this. So at the end of my experience with my client, either buyer or seller, when I ask them for a review, I kind of go over the highlights of our experience. Like if we, got a lower price than the list price, or if we were able to negotiate repairs or something like that, just to overview. And then I ask them, I tell them that their experience, I hope their experience was great. And, can you please leave me a review? Do you think that that's likely, me showing myself as a hero, or do you think that that's something that should still keep?
Well, as long as you're constantly couching whatever the benefits are as benefits to them.
So saying we instead of I. Or
yeah, so you'll hear me say that all the time. And I learned this actually watching Pace too. Like he's a wonderful kind of community builder. And he would say like at the event, he'd be like, hey guys, I just need to understand this is our event. Like we did this. We are disrupting the real estate industry. He's not personally taking credit for stuff. You know what I'm saying? Even though I think everybody unconsciously knows like none of that would be happening if he wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? But he's creating community. So I would ask questions around like, well, I'm curious if we were able to accomplish this for you, like, would that be a benefit to you personally? How would your life improve in some way if we accomplish X, Y, or Z? Okay, good. So it's, and on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being it doesn't really matter, 10 being it's like, it's a really big deal to you in terms of comfort level and stuff. Like, how would you rate this on a scale from 1 to 10 in terms of, making you feel comfortable with proceeding? All right, awesome. So being that that's the case, it really seems like in order for you to feel really comfortable about this, getting this done would be helpful to you. So what I'll do on your behalf is the following. See, now I'm a guide. Mm-hmm. What a lot of agents do is they create drama and try to make themselves the hero to justify how much money they make. They'll be like, oh my gosh, Cheyenne, you won't believe what happened. You won't believe it. It almost died, but I saved it. It was me. I saved the whole thing. You know what's bullshit about that is because they feel uncomfortable with how much money they're making. Like they have to justify it. I don't. People are like, well, you make too much money. I'm like, you know what? Go get a fucking real estate license, okay? See how fucking easy it is. Do you see what I'm saying there? So it's fine that you're adding value, but ask questions in, would this be benefit to you? How would this help you? How would this make you feel if we were able to accomplish for you? Like, what would that mean? You know what I mean? And then you can be like, okay, so being it sounds like it's really important to you. What I can do on your behalf is the following. Mm-hmm. Now they're the hero in their own story. See, by me finding out, Ricardo, what's important to them, I'm establishing them as the hero. Most agents who are just trying to set an appointment, who's the hero? They are. I'm telling you guys, this sounds like verbal gymnastics. It's not. This is like the difference between the Jedi Force and like the Stormtroopers. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a complete different strategy. One is brute force, Ricky. I'm just gonna fucking and then I get around people that are like, yeah, that's what we do. Yeah, we fucking The other is like a whole nother level of influence. And when you see it from the outside, it looks like magic, but it's not. It's a change. It's a shift in perspective. I am not the hero. I am the guide. Uh-huh. My job is to help you to accomplish your goals and objectives, not reach my goals and objectives.
You know what it sounds like, Aaron, on the outside?
Yeah.
And I think everybody here that's listened to, obviously you trained Jose, but if you listen to Jose Luis Morales speak, there is nothing flashy about that guy. It is all massive alignment. It is pointed questions, and it's all about them. And it almost sounds so simple. It's like, dude, I can do this. But he basically functions off with those pillars of just like massive alignment, make it about them, and just asking really deep not surface, but like deeper questions that makes it all about them for self-discovery.
100%. And the reason why I'm being so forceful with this is I was like, when I was teaching him how to do that, I was equally as forceful with him. We had a call one time. I said, Jose, he's like, yeah. I'm like, you have a really good brain. He's like, uh-huh. I'm like, you need to use it. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's exactly right. If you listen to him on Clubhouse, like he probably asked 15, 20 questions and he didn't talk about himself once. Where the other guy was like, well, in my expert opinion, I think rates are going to come down. Like, bro, it's the difference between an amateur and a pro. That's what you're seeing.
Yep.
Aaron, may I make a parallel? It's like jiu-jitsu. If anybody knows jiu-jitsu, the momentum of your opponent is used against the opponent pretty much.
Yeah, so instead of having to like muster up like a tremendous amount of like force to like push, which like another kind of form of like kind of like karate is like, rah, like it's force. Like you're using their energy. You know what I'm saying? It's a different approach. It's a different tactic. And again, both work. So I need you guys to understand something. Two things can be true at the same time. Something's more true than something else. When people tell you, well, Antonio, we're going to have to agree to disagree. That is horseshit. You know what they're really saying is, I don't enjoy conflict and I don't want to continue to triangulate ideas to find out what's really true. And then they get all like attached to like being right. And it's like, dude, if you watch me and Jose triangulate, we're ruthlessly attached to the truth. And bro, sometimes it's spirited debate. Spirited. But we know it's okay. You need to create an environment for yourself where you allow 100% transparency, because you can't get to the truth otherwise. But I need you to understand, transparency and constructively working through conflict is not in our nature. Our nature is to be social creatures. So we survive by being, just like being agreeable. But the way you get to actual truth is through 100% transparency. So like if I'm in a room, let's say, and I say something first, like let's say I'm in a meeting. If I talk first, somebody who's very like, we will literally change our minds for someone that we like admire or that we have respect for. So what's true is I should be actually the one that speaks last in a meeting, because I don't want to influence somebody's ability to tell me what's true, something I might be missing. So we have to create environments where we can be. And the truth is we don't like it because it doesn't come natural, and it's not. It requires energy to expend, and you have to manage egos because sometimes people get fucking all butthurt.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, bro, it's bullshit. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not talking about feelings here. We're talking about like what's true. And we know the truth by the way it feels. You know the truth, bro. And if you sit and triangulate long enough, I promise you something will be more true than something else. So does the bulldozer method work? Yeah. But you know what it works at? A low level.
Yeah.
If you want to graduate to higher levels of the force, it doesn't work as well. It's not as effective and it's not as efficient.
Yeah. Aaron, in the when we do the role play group, when we do the close, whether it's like, usually it's an expired, like the close that we do has 7 U's and 0 I's.
Yeah.
U's. At least you've met with the top agent in your area. You'll have all the information you need to make the best decision for you and your family.
Yep.
Nowhere is there an I.
Nowhere is there an I. Do you see the difference, guys? And I'm telling you, it's a radical shift. A radical shift in approach.
Yep.
And it makes all the difference. It really does.
How does somebody say no to that close when you put 7 U's in there and not 1 I?
It's very difficult. If they have any level of like sincere motivation, and you've done a good job of asking, and not only that, okay, let me ask you a question from like as an individual personal perspective. If somebody, whether it's a doctor, accountant, or physician, whoever it is, or whatever professional, they sit down with you and they ask you a bunch of questions about you and your situation, how is that going to make you feel?
Important.
Yeah.
Heard.
Mhm. Or
Makes me feel important. But instead, out of insecurity, who do we want to make important? Lots of puffery. You see how people have it opposite?
yeah.
By asking lots of questions, I make you feel A, I'm competent. I know what I'm doing. So the competency part. But B, you feel important. You know how rare it is that somebody sit and ask you questions about yourself?
Yeah.
Bro, I have some people, I'm telling you, dude, I was telling Carla, like we were at an event, there's maybe 4,000 people in the room, the 10X Growth Con. And I was saying to her, I'm like, like all these people here, the vast majority of them are like aspirants. They're like aspiring to like accomplish something. And they're kind of imagining that if they accomplish something, they sell 100 homes, make $1 million, like their life is going to be like centered and at peace. And I know that's not true because I've had that experience. And I'm also aware that what they're looking for is really inside of them. And if I was to go around the room and stand in front of each and every one of them and give them my undivided attention and ask a few questions, 60% of them would start crying. That's a fact. Because everybody's dealing with something. So like to have that perspective, to know that, like, and to realize like, hey, this is like I don't have to do this. I get to do this. I get to be a guide for people. And they're going to share like a lot of their hard-earned money and equity with me. Like I didn't go to work for 30 hours a week to fucking build all the equity. You know what I'm saying? And they're willing to share 10, 20, 30,000 bucks with me. Like, thank you. Appreciate it. It's a whole different approach, bro. And really, when I see those low level that are trying to do the fucking ram through, I see little puppies. Fucking yapping chihuahuas. It's like, it's such a low vibration, bro. It's so self-centered and selfish. Yes, Joseph.
Aaron, so quick question for you. Like, I think for me, obviously, I tend to overcomplicate things. And I know the message here today is be simple and be a guide. So when would it be appropriate, in your opinion, for like, this is my 50-point marketing plan, or this is how I do this, or this is how I do that? And,
yeah, after you've already, well, it's a couple things. And again, I mean this with like extraordinary love. The story of one is a story of all. If you think a lot about things, it's in an attempt to try to not make a mistake. Underneath it is a fear of failing. But what's interesting is that failure is actually how you learn. So it impedes my ability to learn things fast. Right? So I would just be aware of that. It's perfectly fine to tell people about your service after you've fully figured out what the situation is, what they're trying to accomplish, and what's important to them. So it's fine to be like, yeah, here's what I do. Because eventually you're going to have to like demonstrate what you do. But the problem is we put that in front of finding out what their goals are, what's important to them, their time frame, what feelings are associated with them, like all of these things. So it's just putting them in their proper order. Once I've determined that Joseph has a need that I can help and that I can serve him with, it's like, great. So, may I make a suggestion? Yeah, well, based on everything you've been kind enough to share with me, I'm hearing a couple things. One, you sincerely wish to proceed with getting this property on the market and getting it sold. The second thing I'm hearing from you is that the more information you can gather right now, in terms of realistically what you could expect to receive and what the proceeds would be and some of these ancillary services we can connect you with, the better equipped you'll be so you can make the decision that you feel is best. So I'd love to have the opportunity. I wouldn't mind. I'm in the area all the time anyway. Simply pop by, take a look, see what it has to offer. And while I'm there, I'll show you a couple things. Number one, very clearly and succinctly, a equity report into how much we can expect to receive for the property, what would be top dollar. Number two, the 50-step marketing plan that we utilize that helps families just like you get their home sold in this geographic area all the time. And then at least this way, you'll have all the information you need so you can make the decision that you feel is best in terms of how to proceed. Does that sound fair to you? So it's fine. It's just doing it in its proper order, not leading with, here's all the things I do. Lead with, hey, I'm the guide here. And I just need to ask you some questions so I can determine what your goals and objectives are, what you're looking to accomplish and why, what your time frame is. And then from there, we can continue the conversation.
Got it.
Make sense?
Right, cool. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, it's like premature. You know what I'm saying? Like until I know that you want to do something, there's no point in me talking to you about how I do it.
All right. Thank you so much.
Love it, bro. What else we got?
So when you,
Observation. Yeah.
I was going to say, when you ask a lot of questions, how do you redirect them when you need to? Because sometimes people will just talk and talk and talk. And then by the time you even get your chance, it's like, okay, well, I've talked. It's been like an hour now. So like learning to
well, I think part of that is it's interesting because it's like it's something that comes with like, you know, experience, and it's I think also like being really present in the conversation, like seeing where it's going and then asking another question to bring them back to where what we were talking about before. You know what I'm saying? So let's say if they're talking, you're like, yeah, you know, I really appreciate you sharing that with me. And I guess I'm still unclear. And then ask the question that you were asking before. You know what I'm saying? So it's just being like, so if I'm distracted, and I'm not suggesting you are, but if I'm looking at my phone and shit and you're talking to me, like it's just like, it might just ramble on. But if I'm fully present in the conversation and I can see that you're starting to like go off on a tangent, I'm like, okay, I got to bring them back. Right. So listen, I really appreciate your willingness to share all of that with me. And the more you're willing to share, the better equipped I am to provide you service that could be helpful or useful. And I just want to go back to that previous question because truthfully, I'm still not clear. And the more clear I am, the better results we'll be able to accomplish for you. So ask the question again. And I think it's like an internal thing too, Salima, where it's like, I'm going to say something to you. And again, I mean it with love. It's like, it has to do with like speaking up a little bit. I think the tendency in the past was to not speak up. So that's why it's like an interesting thing for you. Is if you notice it kind of drifting away, like you're like, well, if I speak up, maybe they won't like me. Maybe they'll get mad at me. Like maybe something, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's a little bit of that too.
Aaron, what is your approach to initiating an appointment when you don't meet at the property? You know, initiating the conversation.
Tell me, give me more specifics.
You know, like someone's got a house for sale that they've already moved out of, so the property's vacant. So you're meeting them somewhere else to make things convenient for them. You know, how would you initiate that?
Yeah. So truthfully, what I would do is I'd actually do that via Zoom.
Or I guess initiate the conversation once.
Yeah. So and I keep in mind that like people are looking to be led. Our job is to lead them. So think about this, like when people come to you, let's say for like advice on, you know, bodybuilding and stuff, they come to you and you could be like, yeah, here's how we start. And they're like, okay. Like you're right. They're looking to be led. And the vast majority of people, 95%, aren't going to resist anything that you say to them. Like, yeah, here's the first 3 steps that we're going to do. We're going to do this, this, and this. You're like, okay, like whatever you say, right? So consumers don't know how it's done all the time. And you, in your matter-of-fact, nonchalant way, you could be like, yeah, so what we do in these circumstances, you know, when a homeowner like yourself is not physically at the property, is we can schedule a very simple, maybe 15, 20-minute, no obligation whatsoever, phone or Zoom appointment where we can see each other. And what I can show you during that time together, I can share my screen. We can review an updated market analysis, which I'll send you prior to the appointment so you can review it. So we can determine together as a team how we need to position the property to make sure we get top dollar. And then I can also go over with you, you know, our plan of action, what we're going to be doing to help get the property sold. And then if it all makes sense and you feel comfortable and confident, we can send you the appropriate documentation electronically via DocuSign, and then we can take it from there. How does that sound? Now, they're either going to say, okay, or they're going to say, well, don't you need to look at the property first? And what I would say in that instance, like, yeah, I appreciate you asking. You know, it's really interesting because we have the good fortune of helping as many people as we do. I'm in and out of these homes all the time. I can get a very clear picture based on what you described to me verbally, the property has to offer. What's also true is, you know, with the internet and Google Maps and stuff, like, you know, I can very much so see, you know, a bird's eye view and what the pros and cons of the property are. So when we connect via Zoom, we're going to get a tight, realistic range as to what's reasonable. And then, once you decide to proceed and you want to hire us, then we can physically go take a look. And if we need to firm that up, plus or minus a little bit, we can always do that. Does that sound okay? And they're like,
yeah, I've got a tomorrow with a athletic director of Frisco High School, very large sphere. And we arranged to meet at the school.
Mm-hmm.
He's already moved out of the property. I mean, that's, I guess.
Yeah. So if you arrange to meet at the school, I would just handle it the same way. So he's probably going to be sitting at his desk and you'll be sitting in the opposite side. He's just like, yeah, first and foremost, I just want to begin our time together just by saying thank you for providing me the opportunity to share some information with you, potentially help you with the sale. I have a couple real important questions just to get started, make sure we're on the same page. Would that be okay? Yeah. So the first question, which I'm pretty sure I know your answer based on our initial conversation via telephone, is that you've already decided that you're definitely going to sell the home. Is that correct? Yeah. I mean, you're not interested in holding on to it, like, renting it out, anything of that nature? Nope. All right. And then that leads me to my second question, which I'm also pretty sure I know the answer to, is you want to position the property price-wise to sell. You definitely don't want to give it away. That's for sure. At the same time, you don't want to have it sit on the market for like 6 or 7 months to just test the market. Is that correct? That's right. All right. And then that leads me to my third question. I'm aware I sent you over some information in preparation for connecting. I'm sure you did some due diligence. You checked me out online. You saw track record and reviews. So have you already decided that you would like for me and my team to help? So I think, and I don't know what you've been doing, Austin, but like I would propose that the listing presentation that is available to you and that, that I use to list over 100 homes a year for 10 years in a row, I would follow that to the T. I don't care if I'm meeting them at Starbucks, at their house, on a Zoom call, like it's going to be the same every single time. Because it produces the outcome, the desired outcome and result, which is them signing a contract. Because if he says yes, no, or maybe, you're like, okay, let's say he says yes, great. You do the happy dance on the inside. Great. All we have to do is go over the market analysis. I brought that with me. I also have the appropriate paperwork. So once we come to an agreement on where to position the property to make sure you get top dollar, we'll take care of the appropriate paperwork, get started. Sound good? The second way is if he says no or maybe. It's like, okay, well, I know it's a big decision. You want to make sure you're making the best decision possible. And in preparation for connecting, I know I asked you a few questions with regards to what you'd be looking for in the agent that you hire for the job. So I know you mentioned somebody who has a great track record, somebody who, can give you some ancillary services, somebody who can just get you top dollar and get the job done. Is there anything else that you'd be looking for from me today that would cause you to feel comfortable and confident just to proceed and put me to work? Yeah, I mean, I want to talk to you about the commission and stuff. Okay. So it sounds like if we can come to an agreement on a professional fee, which I know that won't be a reason why we don't do business. I'm sure we will. Then there's a good chance we'll be able to go to work. And again, I'm very excited to have that opportunity. I'm fully prepared. I have everything with me to get started. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. And then you take it from there. But do you see how if you follow that and if you do it every single time, what it leads to is predictable and duplicatable outcomes? Like my closing ratio is 87%. So if I go on 10 listing appointments, I'm going to take 8 to 9 of them. All right, team. I'm noticed. Go ahead. Yeah, you want to squeak one in? Go ahead. What is it? Let's go.
Aaron, is it possible to drop link to that YouTube video where you talk about the guide and the hero? Because that example was the chef. It's just like so much value. I think people on this call have to watch that video.
Yeah, so that will be on YouTube, and I can just tell you real quick where there was an example of a private chef, and this guy
watched it.
Yeah, this guy was going to hire the private chef. And what the first private chef said to him, like, oh, well, here's where I went to school, Robert. I went to this, chef school, culinary school. I trained under this guy. And no. What the second chef said to the family is, how like a lot of families are really busy and it's very difficult to find time to have a meal together? What I do is I cook meals for families. So that way, at least twice a week, they're going to sit down together around the table. That person's going to get all the money. The other guy who's talking about his credentials and shit isn't going to get anything. So that's the point that Diane is trying to pose. There was another example that he gave of like a physical trainer where Donald Miller, who wrote the book, he's 53 and he has a 3-year-old. So he's interested in longevity. And what the first trainer said, Ricky, he's like, yeah, I can help you to bench like 300. And I know a lot about, protein synthesis. And I was the strength coach at this thing, right? You know what the second guy said to him, Ricky? He's like, yeah, you know how people are having children older? What I do is I help men between the ages of 45 and 60 that have children through exercise live longer so they can hold their grandbabies. That guy's going to get all the fucking money. Messaging matters. So I appreciate you guys. Let's go be great elite builders coast to coast. Hey, if you're local here, you better be in the room on Saturday. There's no reason for you not to be in the room. I'm covering the tab. Just show up. Bring somebody to the event. I'm trying to help you guys build. It's at the Wilder in Fort Lauderdale from 7 to 10 team.
Fort Lauderdale.
Introduce myself. My name is Ho.
Thank you.